Hey everyone, God of War Ragnarök is one of the best games that I have ever played, and a lot of that is due to the story. Santa Monica, the studio behind the franchise, has stated that this version of Kratos would only really have these two games. I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but I'm pretty sure the director of the 2016 God of War said that they had plans for a sequel, but that's it. They didn't want to stretch the story out unnecessarily, and you know what? I love that. Not everything needs to be a trilogy or a permanently ongoing series or a connected universe thing. Sometimes the best experience is a smaller scoped, focused one. Okay, so moving forward, there will be spoilers for God of War Ragnarök and probably some from the 2016 entry. Alright, let's start with the problem here. My biggest and honestly probably my only gripe with God of War Ragnarök is that the whole theme of the game seems to be about fate and forging your own destiny, yet it fails to accomplish that goal by the end of the story, or at least my understanding of it does. Let me explain. The way that the God of War 2016 story ended sets up this narrative perfectly. In the end of the game, Atreus and Kratos make it to the top of the big mountain to spread the ashes of Faye, Kratos' wife and Atreus' mother. The whole game is centered around this goal, with a few detours and character development along the way. Anywho, they make it to the top of the mountain and Atreus discovers etchings into the wall. These glyphs are basically a prophecy made by the giants, Faye's people, predicting Kratos and Atreus' adventure together.
Wait. They knew everything that was going to happen. The dragon in the mountain, the stone mason, all these drawings. This is our story.
No. This is your story.
This is also the point where Atreus discovers his mom's name for him is actually Loki. The prophecy ends with an image of Atreus holding what appears to be a dying Kratos. All of this essentially sets up the following game, God of War Ragnarök. In the sequel, everything is focused around the titular Ragnarök prophecy. The prophecy states that basically Asgard will be destroyed along with Thor and Odin at the hands of Kratos and Atreus, more or less. So, up to this point in the game, everything that has happened according to prophecy. Atreus, or Loki, I guess, has grown older and wants to explore the realms again. You see, to him, he is destined to fulfill this great prophecy and he believes that he will fulfill it. And why wouldn't he? Up to this point, his entire life has basically been prophesized. To him, prophecy might as well be an undisputed certainty. Meanwhile, Kratos has seen a part of the prophecy that Atreus hasn't. Kratos' death. So, Kratos seems to be trying to fight this prophecy from happening. The first game established that he has accepted his role as a father and protector and does not wish for his son to war against the gods of this mythology, as Kratos did before him. Also, Kratos dies, but I don't really think he cares too much about that part, besides the fact he wouldn't be able to watch over his son. Anyway, the whole game is about prophecy, which it makes sense in a series centered around ancient mythology. We have two underlying themes butting heads throughout the game. You must fulfill your destiny, which is Atreus, and you can forge your own destiny, which is Kratos. It sets up a really nice dynamic throughout the story that I really enjoyed. As I mentioned earlier, Kratos isn't buying into this prophecy stuff, even after the events of the first game. And I think that's completely understandable if you know his history. At this point in the franchise, Kratos has a hardened heart after losing almost two complete families.
In the service of a cruel god, I was tricked into destroying a village, not knowing my own wife and child were there until their blood stained my hands.
He's no longer in his homeland, and even when he was never really a true Greek god to the people. The people who worshiped the Greek gods and saw prophecy as a certainty, kinda like Atreus with Tyr and Ragnarok, never respected or really acknowledged Kratos. So why would Kratos buy into that? I mean, the dude killed the literal physical embodiments of fate in Greece. He has seen firsthand that he can control the outcome of his destiny, and he tries to teach that to Atreus throughout the story.
Fate only binds you if you let it. Do what is necessary. Not because it is written. We will make our own destiny.
Well, Atreus finds out that the Ragnarok prophecy predicts Kratos' death, so now he also wants to change the prophecy. Fast forward to the end of the game and we're in Asgard at the final stages of the prophecy. Asgard is being torn apart by battle, Thor has been killed, and Kratos and Odin are fighting. Long story short, Kratos whoops Odin's ass and then Sindri kills Odin's soul or something. In the end, Kratos survives, avoiding the ending of the prophecy they originally saw on that mountain so long ago. So, there you have it. Somehow, Kratos and Atreus were able to fight the prophecy and change their fate. They fulfilled Ragnarok without killing Kratos. At this point, it seems as if the message is clear. You are in control of your own destiny. Just as Kratos did before him, Atreus is able to defy the fates of his world and forge his own path. Or at least that's what it looks like up until the final scene of the story. Kratos and Atreus discover that Faye had destroyed Loki's shrine in Jotunheim, which carried his prophecy inside. They find a new shrine that shows the story of Kratos and Atreus once again, just like God of War 2016. Kratos says that because of that, they were able to create their own destiny, sticking with the theme of the game that I mentioned earlier.
She didn't want us to know our fate.
We forged our own path because of her.
Okay, so everything is wrapped up. Atreus is off doing his own thing, and Kratos is going to clean up a bit after Ragnarok. That is, until he sees the back of the shrine. On the back of Atreus' shrine is another set of doors that can be opened up, revealing Kratos' own prophecy. In this, he sees his entire Norse story arc. From leaving Greece to his adventures with Atreus and Ragnarok, everything is there. And then, finally, we see him being worshipped on the final panel. At last, he is being recognized as a god worthy of the people's praise. To me, this is where I get a little conflicted. Like, yeah, obviously I want to see Kratos finally getting his dues, but this whole time, all of these adventures and battles are motivated by the idea that Kratos and Atreus can decide their own destiny, that they decide how their story ends. It's weird to me because the whole theme is fighting to create your own fate, yet in the end, he ends up fulfilling a prophecy anyway. Don't get me wrong, I think this is a beautiful moment where Kratos gets to see that he is a great god worthy of love, but it also contradicts a lot of what we just went through. Wasn't the whole point of this to fight to create your own destiny? And then in the end, we see that none of that really came to fruition because his fate was already prophesized. To me, this ending has shades of the Game of Thrones ending. Don't get me wrong, Ragnarok is infinitely better than the ending of Game of Thrones. What I mean by that is that the whole theme becomes undermined by a single scene. In Game of Thrones, Daenerys spends the entire series convinced that she can break the wheel, that she can end the cycle of pain and suffering brought on by the great powers of the main families in the show. The same can be said for Jaime Lannister. He spends the entire show evolving and growing away from his relationship with his sister, all for the betterment of him as a person. And then the final season just shits all over that. Game of Thrones has always been about shocking moments and subverting expectations, but the final season takes those ideas and uses them in a way that disrespects storytelling and the audience. Now, I can make an entire separate video on why the final season sucks and how it could have been fixed, but that's not really what I'm trying to do here. Back to my point. By having Daenerys get killed, by having Jaime Lannister return to Cersei, by having Jon Snow sent back to exile, the showrunners of Game of Thrones have completely undermined their entire theme. The theme of change, that people can change. By ending the show in the way it did, it says that no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you have developed, you are doomed to remain the person that you always were. Royalty, exile, pervert. you cannot change. Your actions, no matter how impactful you believe them to be, are ultimately inconsequential. Which finally brings me back to God of War Ragnarök. Like Game of Thrones, the entire theme of the game, the theme of forging your own fate, is thrown out the window by revealing that Kratos has had his own prophecy this entire time. A prophecy that, it turns out, he fulfilled in full. Now, after just experiencing 2 incredible games that build up our characters and establish this idea of manifest destiny, I'm left wondering if it ever even mattered. If this journey was already established to happen, then did we do anything meaningful to actually create our own fate? Like I said, these 2 games are some of the best that I have ever played, and by making this video, I'm really just nitpicking. You could obviously argue that the game is more about the journey than it is the ending, particularly the 2016 entry, but the ending of Ragnarök is something that has stuck with me for a while now. All that we just experienced culminated into that final scene, where then it was all suddenly ripped away from us. I'm interested to hear what you guys think. What do you think of the ending of God of War Ragnarök? Where do you want to see Kratos go next? I want to hear your thoughts on the story and any perspectives you might have on the ending. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.